safety car and safety car driver Bruno Correa there at the front of the grid. He's in his red and white overalls, ready to lead the car around. Matt Neal, I confidently predicted with the tight nature of the track and the almost handbrake turn first corner that we would be seeing the safety car, and of course hasn't come out of the pit lane at all.
Did you say that? I was probably
you probably just zoned out like you normally do. You know, Haven's on again. But remarkable, actually, you know, on such a tight track with everybody with a lot of pressure on them, that there were. I mean, it was only on the last lap that Charlie New's car got stranded on the circuit and Taniguchi's car,
yeah, you can just see from the angle now how tight and in close proximity. You know, if the drivers go off, I mean, when Taniguchi went off, he hasn't got long to walk back to the garages, as long as he doesn't get lost in the maze, of course.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, actually. Sitting in the grandstands, you can see every inch of the track. So sitting here from our camera view at the top of the grandstand, you know, if you look round with the naked eye, you can see the entire circuit.
Yeah, it's good. It's great for fans because they're close to the action, which is what they like about, you know, the circuits like Croft and, you know, which they know in the UK and Brands Hatch. But you know, it's just the tight and twisty nature of it. Yeah. You know, but it's on the other side of the coin, it's not got the runoff area, which Taniguchi found as well, which means it's very unforgiving. And, you know, with concrete walls there, it doesn't take any prisoners.
Well, you talk about the Brands Indy Circuit, you know, when you're going from McLean's through onto the last couple of McLaren into the last couple of corners at Brands, you know, when you're going over the brow there, once you've gone past Surtees, before you get into Clearways, when you're over the brow there, you know, if you have any touch there, those tyre walls on the outside are very, very close. And, you know if you have a problem at Paddock, it's going to be a pretty high-speed problem as well. So, yeah, I mean, they're old-fashioned tracks. This, of course, is a much more modern track, but it's a very old-fashioned sort of track in terms of, you know, Richard Coleman was saying, you ought to have known that the suspension was a bit awry and tried to pull off somewhere. Well, you know, he went off after turn 2 before turn 4. I mean, there's not an awful lot of places you can pull off. As you saw when the car actually turned left, there was not very much room to park it before you hit the wall.
You're going to be right on the edge of the circuit. So, I mean, it's not a long lap back. You can't blame him for trying to limp it back because they can see if they can repair it and get it out for race 2.
Well, that's exactly what he's thinking. If it had been 5 laps from the end or 10 laps from the end, he would have parked it. So but, you know, it was last lap. So, but there you go. There's the grid. And barring injuries and accidents, you'll see everybody finishes up. Now, Darryl O'Young, again, the grid reflects that the stewards have got wrong the request for Yukinori Taniguchi's car to be examined out of Parc Fermé, which drops you to the back of the grid, not Darryl O'Young's. Darryl should still start 18th, because as far as we're aware, he is not subject to a penalty. So Young should start 18th. Yukinori Taniguchi will not start in 19th, which promotes Fabio Fabiani, Philip Marr and Charlie New up 1 place each. Different bunch of KW girls every weekend. These are this weekend's in front of Christian Poulsen, starting just to creep away a fraction in the Yokohama Independence Trophy, but we've said that about 3 or 4 different drivers at 3 or 4 different stages this year. I mean, essentially, again, even more so than with the main championship, it's just be in the frame when you go to Macau. Again, with double points on offer, even if my maths isn't what it ought to be, the point remains there is double points on offer. So what looks like a bit of a tricky gap becomes a lot less tricky when you end up in Macau.
Yes, double points on offer, but there's less points in the Yokohama Trophy, isn't there? As Neil very kindly corrected.
But it also means that the gaps aren't quite as big when somody wins and you're 4th or 5th.
Now. How many points is in it now? I mean, he's what?
Didn't write them down.
13, 14, 15 points. Which you're going to need those. Michelitz is going to need those double points come Macau for sure. Yeah,
but again, you know, if you're 20 points behind and there's 50 on offer, then it's very doable.
Yeah.
You only need the other guy to get tangled up in somebody's accident and. You know, let's face it, or to have a mechanical problem like Michelitz should have been top scorer, ended up 5th or 6th.
What he definitely needs is a strong race this one. You cannot afford to lose any more points to Poulsen in this one.
No, you're absolutely right.
So this is a bit of a pressure race for him.
Yeah, more pressure than Hungary, maybe even. That was a pretty pressurised weekend. He's got Christian Poulsen behind him on the grid, but Michelitz there starts in 9th place. Alemenu in 8th place on the grid. 3rd in the World Championship and having won race 1. What's that?
Old Neil's on the ball.
And Neil is on the ball. Neil Hudson from touring car times. What's he saying now? Poulsen 119, Mikulits 104, so 15 points. 10 points for a win here.
Only another 7 behind him.
Yep, yeah. And Veer 5 behind him, and Engstler 1 behind Veer now. So, and Darrell O'Young could also just about win it. And, you know, this is the... you're 49 points away, and there are 50 points on offer when you get to the Macau.
There is still 6 drivers who can still win the Yokohama Trophy.
Yeah. And I would imagine probably at the end of this weekend, because how far back he's starting, Darrell will be out of it. But chances are 5 will leave here with a shoot at the title.
Yeah.
Colin's brother there just taking the banana from him. Obviously he can't eat an orange because that clashes with the colour of the car. And again, thoughts for Marco Simoncelli, his family, and particularly his father Paolo. And for those of you who are watching MotoGP earlier today, whatever it is, from Valencia, the final weekend, instead of a minute's silence in tribute to Marco Simoncelli, at the request of his father, and a very good suggestion it is as well, there will be a minute's noise where all the motorcycles in the paddock and presumably in the car parks will be making as much noise as is humanly possible. And so I think perhaps a fitting send-off for the MotoGP finale. You can join Toby Moody, Julian Ryder and the rest of the crew for live coverage, and I'm sure that's going to be a very emotional end to the MotoGP season. Well, a little further forward then, Thiago Monteiro starts in 5th position, and second best of the Seats on the grid, third best in fact, because in front of him is Freddie Bart and Gabriele Tarquini a row in front of that. If Armana starts 4th, what do you think his frame of mind is? After race 1, not half as bad a result as it could have been.
Press on. You know, he's got to. He knows that the Seats have not had the pace in the race, so he's got 2 in between him and Huffy. So he's going to keep a clear head, get his head, you know, get it down, and I think he's going to be a little bit more relaxed in this one. But what he's got to be careful of, you know, we're a standing start this time.
Yep.
Big, you know, big difference to a rolling start. Rolling start is more, okay, you're arriving at the first corner quicker, which can cause more problems. But he's got the fast-starting BMs coming through. You know, I mean, the front-wheel drives have done an awful lot to combat the advantage BMW had, and they've got a very sophisticated start procedure now. The Seats have got it, the Chevys have got it, and they can almost hold the BMs off. But the BM does, by it's just physics, the way it sits down and puts more weight on the rear tyres, gets more grip. You know, they are better off the start. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out, but the start is going to be very critical to see how the race pans out. What Huffy cannot do is let anyone beat him into the first corner.
No, he's got to get the 25 points.
He's got to get his head down.
That's absolutely right. What would be really entertaining, I think, is to see a healthy Gabriele Tarquini and also a healthy Freddie Bart. You just saw the mechanics offering the Swiss driver, you know, a bit of luck on the grid. And actually, apart from bad luck, he really hasn't had very much luck at all this season. And for Freddie Bart, if he could get on the podium, that would really, really send him back home to Switzerland with an awful lot better feelings, I think, towards the end of the season.
One thing here is Huffy will be very aware of is the one driver who is probably better than any other driver at getting a front-wheel drive car off the line is Gabriele Tarquini. So, and if he lets Tarquini in front of it, as soon as Tarquini smells a win, you know, his gloves come off and he starts, he'll start fighting.
The other thing, of course, is look where Rob is on the grid. First corner is not a right-hander, it's a left-hander. He's on the racing line, which arguably might be the grippier side of the track. But you're right, if Tarquini can get alongside, even a bit of an overlap, it's a left-hand hairpin, the first corner. Huff could really find himself in trouble on the outside. He must make the best start of his season for this second race. Under the big Chevy Cruze banner sits our poleman, Rob Huff, in his Chevy Cruze. And our race director, Mirek Bartos, waves the green flag for the final formation lap. Now, this is not the rolling start, this is a standing start. So Huff may well have just left a little bit of extra rubber on his grid spot there as he pulled away, checking that everything is correct. And looking down at the steering wheel, they've got almost a dozen different throttle maps and a dozen different traction maps on the steering wheel there, and he will be very, very determined to try and outstart Gabriele Tarquini. Matt Neal, you made the point. Tarquini, comfortably the best starter of a front-wheel drive touring car that we've seen all year long. He can get those cars off the line quicker than a BMW driver, so he really is a big threat for Rob Huff, and Huff's got to be closing him down the moment the lights turn.
Yeah, and just throw the ball back at you, and exactly as you said, he's got the inside line, and you know, he's got the inside line because they run a staggered grid, but the stagger isn't very much. You know, Gabriele's, the nose of his car, you know, when they're sitting there, it's almost alongside Rob's. So if they go on even Stevens, then you'd have to say it's Gabriele's corner at turn 1. So it's going to be ever so tight getting into that turn 1. It's who makes the best start.
Well, what we've got to pray is that Gabriele's got a brake pedal.
Well, see, now that could really liven things up. If Gabriele gets in front, gets a bit of a brake problem, he's not going to want to give up the lead and a potential win.
No, what I was saying, what I was suggesting is going into the first corner on the inside with Rob potentially on the outside. Let's pray that Gabriele's got brakes where he wants them.
He'll be fine.
Yes, certainly hope so. You just saw Arno, who is Thiago's engineer, chatting with Giancarlo, Gabriele's engineer. Now, I mean, they obviously all the race engineers chat amongst themselves, but I couldn't quite pick up what they were talking about, and not sure there was anything too much to worry about. Thiago starts 5th, Gabriele 2nd. Can we see a Seat on the podium here? Again, there's enough of them at the sharp end. Eric Neves had a Chevrolet win once. Can he get a Chevrolet win twice? There's Muller's view from the grid, as the rest of them form up behind.
Yeah, you'd have never said a Seat would win at Zolder. Tarquini pulled one out of that, didn't he?
Tarquini, he is a bit of a magician when it comes to rabbits. Grid is forming up, yellow flag still waving. When that is withdrawn, the final car is in position. We are ready to go. Round 22 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. The green flag man runs across the back. The red lights are on, the revs rise, away we go. Another good start from Tarquini. Huff is closing him down. Tarquini's already got the lead. Muller has got Turkington up the inside. Great start from the BMW driver. He found the room he wanted. Freddie Bart is in 3rd. No, he's not. Turkington's alongside. Bart gets bobbled out over all those curbs on the exit. Bart is down to 4th. Turkington's up to 3rd, but Tarquini has the lead he wanted. Gabriele, after running around with no brakes in race 1, has the lead, and Muller's been shuffled back as well. Muller had to be really cautious. He was in 6th place at the first corner, and he's back up inside Freddie Bart for 5th position. Menu in a bunch of 4 or 5 cars, and around goes Norbert Mikkelis, and Huff trying to make a pass on Tarquini. Contact between the two of them. We may see the safety car out. No, it looks like everybody's not going again, and Huff's off. Again, contact with Tarquini just at Zolder, and what is going to be left of Rob Huff's car or championship chances? He comes back on, and here comes Muller as ever. Blood in the water. He goes right up the inside, passes his teammate. Muller's in 3rd. Tarquini leads. Muller's 2nd. And Rob Huff, is it still drivable? Is it still raceable? Huff desperately trying to win the race. Contact with Tarquini as ever. Robust in defence, the Italian. And the opening lap might not have been perhaps the ideal place. Muller now.
Again.
And Huff is trying to get by Turkington. Now he's really pushing hard, Rob Huff, because Muller is shaping up to pass Tarquini. Turkington down to 4th. Huff is up to 3rd. So the answer is yes. That Union flag on the roof of the Chevy. His car is still raceable. Turkington's 4th. There are 2 cars wheel to wheel behind him. Coronel is in 5th position, Menu in 6th, ahead of Freddie Bart, and Huff is holding off Turkington as he spent most of race 1 doing, but Muller trying to challenge to win this to extend his championship advantage again, but he's going to have to pass Tarquini to do it, Matt, and as Rob's already found out, Gabriele is not in the mood.
Yeah, Gabriele will never go down without a fight, but this is Muller territory, isn't it? He's just in the thick of it.
Menu inside Coronel, there was a couple of touches there, and you've got to be really careful of that because, as you said, it doesn't look like it does much damage because the bodywork tends to spring back. It's what's underneath that doesn't like being hit sideways. In the pits is Thiago Monteiro. He is out already. So maybe maybe he's got a puncture. Maybe he was involved in that collision earlier on.
But if anyone says Rob isn't hungry enough for this, the way he fought back at Turkington was absolutely spectacular. He's not going down without a fight.
And the way he tried to dive bomb Gabriele part-way round lap 1, he was determined to try and take the lead back and try and win this race, and so now is Muller. And well, I'll tell you, all arms and elbows already. barely got any idea who's where apart from the lead group. Tarquini leads from Muller. That's the red and white and the blue and white car. Huff is in third, the second of the blue Chevys. Colin Turkington's yellow BMW is fourth. But at the moment, all eyes on the battle for the lead. Muller shaping up to pass Tarquini at every corner.
Yeah,
Thiago Monteiro in the pits and out of the race, I'm afraid. It looked like they were going to put a tyre on the car, but they've obviously got more damage. Tarquini's got a bump there on the right rear from Huff, and Muller is all over him. The problem is finding a way to get by. And, you know, these two go back a long way. They are good friends and good rivals from their years at Seat and many times before.
Muller's looking, he's locking up.
Yeah,
all we need, I'll tell you what, he's all over him. We just need Tarquini to stay in front, and then this fight is going to get really interesting.
And then Huff gets close, and this is where Huff and Tarquini made contact before. And Muller can't get through now. He's looking on the inside. The Chevrolet's got great ability to produce grip in corners, and he goes underneath the Seat. And now Huff has got to try and pass Tarquini again. And again, Gabrielli will not want to give away second place either.
No, this is Huff's worst nightmare, though, to see a van.
Yeah. Bad enough to be following Tarquini, but to be following Tarquini with the van in front. And he knows, as you rightly suggest, Matt, that 2 laps and Ivan will be gone. Although Menu didn't escape, did he? Couldn't escape in the first race.
Yeah, but his other problem is he's got Turks on his rear boot lid. So, and he's got you know, Turks is going to be pushing on.
The other thing is, because Rob is coming from behind, there might just be a degree of circumspection that Ivan Muller can afford not to use when he's trying to make the pass. At the start, Tarquini was so quickly away. Rob covered everything behind him and was then immediately focusing on Tarquini as everybody else tried to shuffle round the first corner. Well, there is Muller's start.
Blinding start from Turkington.
Turks got really quickly up the inside, didn't he? It all opened up nicely for him. Norbert Mikulis on the outside, desperately trying to stay in one piece. Great onboard view there through the middle from Tom Coronel.
Huffy's got to get his skates on, because otherwise Muller's going to be absolutely.
And who got turned round? It was Mikulis. Yes, I've forgotten that. And he was on. That was.
And hit again.
That was with Menu. Oh dear! 3 Pro Team cars. No, 2 Pro Team cars and Engstler. And here's Dahlgren's view of it. This is the Mark Martin camera view, straight into the tyre smoke. Does he call it right? Yes, he goes all the way around the outside. Actually picked up a place or two as well in that confusion. And then a view of Turkington right up behind Rob Huff as Huff went off.
I think he got on the outside of
yeah, he was on the outside of Tarquini, but Turks was into the back of him as well. Tarquini was braking early perhaps, and maybe that's what forced Huff to go around the outside. Muller leads. We're 6 laps in. Muller's just set the quickest race lap, a 1:06.0.
I think that's a new lap record, isn't it? So he's definitely got his head down, and he's, you know, 7/10 he's pulled out on that 1 lap. So
yeah,
Huffy just needs to get a move on, stand any chance of staying with him.
There's Menu. Our race 1 winner is in 6th position behind Coronel's BMW and ahead of that of Christian Poulsen. Poulsen again. Ooh, nearly goes off. Oh, Poulsen's got a problem. Slowing. No, maybe not. Maybe that was just recovering from that moment. Oh, I don't know, though. Menu's cleared off completely. Looks like the car is okay. And Muller is gone.
The trouble is now we don't know if Huffy's carrying any injuries from that first lap. That's the problem.
Well, the problem is he can't get by Tarquini, and he's now stuck at Tarquini's speed behind Tarquini, whereas Muller got by him by coming up fast from behind, and that's what Huff needs to do. But he's got Turkington right behind him, that yellow BMW, then Coronel with the white bumper, and with the red roof, that's Menu, 6th position for the Swiss. Christian Poulsen's BMW is in 7th. Gap back to Pepe Oriola is nearly 3 seconds, though. Oriola in 8th. Ahead of Dahlgren and Freddie Bart, who, don't forget, started 3rd. Bart is in 10th place.
Looks like Coronel could do with taking his car down the local Polish car wash. Think they have those in China?
I don't know. They do have car washes, and they're pretty much Chinese run, though. We've lost a number of cars already, and some recovering. Looks like, has Thiago Monteiro come back out of the pits? No, he hasn't yet. Villa, it seems, is out. Mikulis is out. Monteiro is out. Daryl O'Young is running again, or is he?
Nightmare weekend
he's
for
in the pit
Bamboo
lane.
continues, unfortunately.
I think he's in the pit lane, so lost a few cars already. Turkington looking for a place on the podium. He's got better speed than Rob Huff at the moment, but Huff is tucked up behind Tarquini very tightly into the first corner now. Rob has really got to try and make a move, but he's got to try and survive the move as well. And we saw earlier, as we saw at Zolder, look, Huff's under tray is chattering away underneath the car. All right, it's not a high-speed circuit, but all of that will be affecting maybe how the car feels, maybe how the car's temperatures are being dealt with as well. The underbonnet temperature is a real issue with these turbocharged engines, Matt, because the turbo, of course, produces phenomenal heat, or retains phenomenal heat from the exhaust of the engine under the bonnet. Instead of allowing all the heat to go out with the exhaust gases, it heats up the turbo to a ludicrous degree. And so if he's losing underbonnet airflow, if it's disturbed, then he might start to see all those critical temperatures climbing. And we saw in race one a lot of brake problems because of lack of airflow. That's the last thing you want in a turbo engine car. Yeah,
they make great. I mean, the underbonnet temperature is a massive problem with the turbo cars. You know, they've got the turbos running at over 1,000 degrees C. But they've done massive inroads. I know Chevy have done it and Seat have done it. You know, they're using all the same heat shielding that they use in Formula One on the manifolds and everything. So, you know, there's no expense spared. It's, you know, it's high-level racing, and they're just looking at the challenges. It looks like Huffy's undertray's coming off.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, you saw Ronnie looking out over the pit wall, and he wasn't just looking to see what Gabrielli was. He was looking to see what the damage was on Huffy's car.
That's going to be giving him a big problem.
Yeah,
which is only going to get worse.
Oh, and look right behind, Christian Poulsen shaping up for a move, and was there just a little rub? There was with Colin Turkington. I mean, beg your pardon, Tom Coronel shaping up for a little move with Colin Turkington. Coronel fancies an overall podium. He's brought Menu with him. Tarquini is now 4 seconds behind Muller in 6 laps, and so is really the stopper in the bottle here.
Right, the only good thing for Huffy is it's not a high-speed aerodynamic circuit. It's a short stab and go circuit, so the front splitter, if it can hang on, then hopefully it won't be too much of a hindrance. It's not going to help him. I mean, it's not looking good at all.
Massive lock up from Turkington. Through goes Coronel, through goes Menu as well, and Poulsen's right there to have a little lunge at the yellow BMW. And Turkington, again, desperately trying not to run into Rob Huff there.
Well, I think Huffy locked up because he's going to be losing front downforce from that splitter, and that's going to be causing him just... He's not going to have the braking capability. Yeah, you see, Huffy goes first, I think, or does Turkington...
Well, I think Turks is locked up as well, but Huffy's car was skating around at the back, wasn't it? So Turkington struggles there, loses a couple of spots. Yeah, Huff was on the brakes before Turks, but Turks had a big lock-up and was desperately trying to avoid him, wasn't he?
Well, I think Huffy's aware that that's where he got done in the first race by Turkington, so he's going to know he's going to be on the money into it.
Well, the other thing, of course, is that having had a brake problem in race one, are Tarquini's anchors all right? Is he braking a little earlier now? Is his brake lights coming on because he's feeling for the pedal? I mean, he's stopping enough, but he's still slower than, well, everybody behind him and the car in front of him as well. Now the gap is now out to 7 seconds. What was it 2 laps ago? I said it was 4 seconds. So last lap, Muller a 106.9, Tarquini a 107.8, and Huff a 107.9. Tarquini is over a second a lap now, slower than Muller.
Yeah, Muller's definitely not looking back, is he?
No, really not. And Coronel, I'm afraid, is probably not going to take too many prisoners.
Huffy just needs to clear Gabrielli.
Well, Rob Huff with new front tyres for the start of the race, but I'm afraid they're going to be taking an awful lot of punishment here. He locks up again. As you say, that splitter helps with the front downforce.
Yeah, but starting with what they call green tyres, which is brand new, will give you extra speed in the first half of the race, but they are going to go off at a greater rate in the second half of the race. So looking forward for, you know, we're almost at half distance. It's not looking pretty for Rob, unfortunately.
Christian Poulsen also started with fresh tyres on his car. He's in 7th place. He is second of the independents. And some furrowed brows on the pit wall. Menu goes down the inside between Coronel and Turkington. Turkington's trying to come back through the right-hander at turn 3. And Menu's defending into turn 4. Big stop here, all the way down the gearbox into second gear. Still carrying quite a lot of corner speed, but you are rowing up and down the paddles a lot, or up and down the sequential gear shifter a lot. Expensive car park on the inside of turn 4-5 there, with all the cars abandoned after that first lap spin of Norbert Michelis. Got tagged around the nose of Alain Menu's Chevrolet. Menu there holding off Turkington's yellow BMW, and Christian Poulsen behind. That is the lead battle in the Yokohama Independence Trophy. So Turkington already won it in race 1, Poulsen in second place, and Poulsen at the moment the best of the championship contenders in this race as well. There he is in that 11 Liqui BMW. So Poulsen having 2 really good races here, and starting to look more like a real championship contender. Huff now, Matt, doing more defending than attacking, isn't he?
Yeah, and this second group from sort of second back to 7th or 8th position, Menu's the man on the move at the moment, and he's setting the quickest lap. So it's not going to be long before he's getting pulling up to the back of Coronel and giving him something to think about, which will hopefully take the pressure off Rob a bit. Oh no!
Tell you what, Coronel's having a really good go at Rob Huff at the moment. This could all go very badly wrong. Well, the incident involving car number 5, Norbert Michelis, is under investigation. What you're going to see is 15 cars all trying to use the same piece of tarmac on the first lap. I can't imagine where they're going to try and apportion blame for that. It was so many cars, so little room. The blame might go to the organisers for coming to Tianma and not giving them room to race. Here's our race leader.
They'll still give out some fines, though.
Oh, undoubtedly, yeah. Ivan Muller now really backing off. 107.6 his last lap to 108.6 of Tarquini, and Ivan Muller keeping his tyres alive in case Rob Huff does escape. Now, after qualifying, things were looking very positive for Rob Huff. He started race 1 in 2nd, Ivan was back in 7th. He started race 2 on pole, Ivan was back in 4th. He closed 3 points in race 1. The margin between them was 10 when they sat on the grid. If nothing else changes, i.e. if Huff doesn't lose any places, the gap going to Macau will not be 10 points, it'll be 20 points. Ivan is going to double his points lead in this race at the moment. He'll score 25, Rob only 15 at the moment. So this is turning into a very bad weekend for Rob Huff and a much better weekend for Ivan Muller than he could possibly have given credence to.
Yeah, you can't believe how much this pendulum swings one way and the other, isn't it? But we did say this circuit could throw, and it's like Macau. You know, it's so tight, it's so close, it's going to be physical racing, which we've seen, so just anything can happen, and Ivan does thrive in those sort of conditions.
Well, think back to Macau a couple of years ago when it was Muller versus Tarquini in Seats for the championship, and they both had a massive shunt together up on the mountain in qualifying. Ended up, I mean, this was the story, you know, because they were teammates but championship rivals, they decided that they would travel together on the same flight to Hong Kong, then to Macau, stay in the same hotel in adjacent rooms, eat at the same restaurants every night, so there was nothing between them other than themselves. And then ironically they had the same accident and ended up in not in hotel rooms beside each other, in hospital beds beside each other afterwards. I mean, just a bizarre sequence of incidents, and yet both cars were healthy to race, and in the end, of course, Ivan ended up winning the championship from Gabrielli. But you know, that's the sort of vagaries that come in when you go to Macau.
You know, it's in. I'm just almost. It's such a shame Tarquini didn't fight to keep Muller behind him, and then we'd have had a real spectacular scrap between Huff and Muller, nose to tail on their hands.
Yeah.
But
yeah, unfortunately, Muller got a better run on Tarquini than Huff did, and so, you know, that was the end of it, I'm afraid.
Well, Huffy is carrying a few wounds, isn't he? So from that first lap incident.
Yeah, the car's not great. Muller has completely cleared off. And Turkington, incidentally, at the end of race 1, had punctures on both left side tyres.
But he was running very wide on some of the curbs, wasn't he?
But whether he picked up some debris, and actually, you know, he might have picked up some debris off Taniguchi's car, because almost everybody had to swerve to avoid him, didn't he, on that last lap? So that could have just been last lap puncture stuff. Muller leading by 10 seconds. I mean, he's, you know, may as well park it and head to the airport now, because nobody's going to catch him. And
maybe he's trying to lap everybody.
Well, he's not. He's just going as quickly as the car allows. Yeah. And unfortunately, so is Tarquini, but Huff and the rest of them can't get by. And now it's all sort of stalemate, because Coronel's not got the speed at the moment to get by Huff, and Menu can't quite get on terms with Coronel, and behind them Turkington and Poulsen. I know Poulsen would like to get by Turkington if he could, and Huff must be getting a bit annoyed.
Huff is not in a good place, is he?
Constantly pushed through corners, yeah. Well, as ever against the front-wheel drive cars, the BMW is better from turn into mid-corner, but can't use that because the front-wheel drive car is worse from turn into mid-corner, and so the BMW comes up against it. And whatever tyre advantage Rob Huff might have had with fresh fronts at the start, Gabriele Tarquini negated. You know, you pointed out that as a potential problem right from the word go, Matt, that Tarquini gets his front-wheel drive car off the line like it is a rear-wheel drive car. He can outstart anybody. Yeah, we've seen him go from 7th to the lead in, you know, in a standing start in these cars.
He's like a rat up a drain pipe off the start line. But I mean, the other problem here for Huffy and that is it's not a long lap, it's not a fast lap. So you don't get the airflow in through the front of the car. You know, they are absolutely nose to tail. So one is engine temperature, which is going to cost him horsepower against Gabriele, but also his brakes, which is the other problem that a lot of them ran into.
Yep.
So Huffy's got a lot of problems to try, and if he could just clear Tarquini and get his nose around the inside and make a clean pass, then he'd be okay. He'd be away. But at the moment, he's got a real problem on his hands.
Yeah, he really has. Michel Nukia, Alexei Dudicalo, Fabio Fabiani and Philip Marr have all been lapped by Ivan Muller. As you see, Alain Menu defending hard against Colin Turkington. And the yellow BMW having a really serious look at the back of that Swiss-driven Chevrolet. Menu's already had attention from somebody at the back, as you can clearly see. And again, Huff really having to defend hard now. Looking back from Rob Huff at his nemesis Tom Coronel in this race, Coronel could be the undoing of Huff's championship. If Coronel miscues once under braking and clatters Huff off, then it's going to be a devil's own job for Rob to overhaul Ivan Muller. We're now right at the nitty-gritty, squeaky bum time in the championship, where Muller is extending, doubling his championship advantage here.
Oh, Turkington's back through.
Oh, Turkington past Menu and into the back of Coronel, using the Dutchman for brakes. And luckily, Huff was further round the corner, and that didn't really affect him. But Tarquini is starting to open up a little gap over Huffy, and it is now about trying to cling to third, isn't it, rather than take second. Turkington comes out for a late lunge. A Menu tries to cover a little, but
I'll tell you what, there was just enough space between Menu and Coronel there. How he got up there, that was a good pass there.
Good lunge. And Menu, it would have had to have seriously blocked him hard there, you know, really shouldered him off.
Well, Menu saw him coming, and he did try to cover, but he was just too late.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And Turks was carrying too much speed.
And Menu immediately, once he realised Turkington was carrying the speed, went over to the driver's right to get the racing line, to get a good run on the exit of the corner, in the hope that Turkington would just overshoot the exit, run off over the rumble strips, and
or
Menu
spear into the back of Coronel and then get two for the price of one.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly, good thinking. You know, sometimes the pass is going to happen no matter how much you don't want it to, so you've immediately got to switch to counter-attack rather than defence. Menu was wise enough to try that then.
I think, you know, to win any championship, you do need an element of luck involved. You need a great car, you know, great people behind you, but you do need that one magic ingredient, which is luck.
Yeah.
Huffy had that, a little bit of it in, you know, in Q1 yesterday, and got his pole position, everything. But it's just swung completely the other way. And Ivan's driven really well today, but he's had the lucky breaks when Rob hasn't today. So it's when it's not going your way, you can fight as hard as you like. Now Turks is he's pushing on again, isn't he?
That is really good news for Huff, because if Turkington keeps Coronel engaged, then it stops Tom trying to look for a way by the Chevy, and immediately this is happening. You could see that Huff was a couple of car lengths almost away from Coronel, because the Dutchman, as we ride with him, has got a lot more pressing issues there in the first couple of corners of the lap. He was having Turkington trying to get his nose alongside. And Tarquini is clear of Huff. That's second place. Huff in third with the Union flag on the roof. But now he's able to actually try and get his car slowed down the way he wants to, the way it needs to, rather than keep shutting the door on Tom Coronel. Coronel is starting to come back again, so it's not all over.
Yeah, we've got to say how well Turks is going. You know, that Vika Sport car, they're a tiny team, aren't they? It's okay, they're getting some help off West Surrey with Colin being in the car, but it is a real sort of low-key effort. Not saying the others are big factory teams in the BMW outfits, but it's you know, they've done a magnificent job this weekend, I think.
And again, you know, when they had Urs Sonderegger in the car, it didn't look like a particularly quick car, but now he stepped down and they first of all put Stefano D'Aste in. He was in the top 10 immediately at Porto in a car he'd never driven and not tested, and you know, brand new car, turbocharged engine, light switch throttle response, concrete walls on the street circuit. That was a good showing. Now we know that he's a class act. He knew the team, they knew him, but he didn't know the car. Turks has come in again, new car when he got into it first at Donington Park, did a good job there. He's done a good job in China, in Japan, and here in China.
It's such a shame for Turkington, because he's really sort of made his name, made it big. When BMW are downscaling in touring cars,
yes,
you know,
yes.
they're losing drivers. You'd like to see him as a reward, you know, get a test or something in one of the DTM cars for future or something like that. So.
Exactly. I mean, you know, he had the potential to be as exciting for BMW as Andy Prio has been over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Absolutely, it's just opportunity and everything.
Yeah.
So it's you know, he's done everything right for them, and you know, won a lot of races for them and won championship for them.
Yeah. Again, looking back from Rob Huff at Coronel and Turkington. Coronel right behind us. He's in fourth. Turkington invisible now in fifth place behind the TW Steel BMW. And again, Coronel having a good flyaway trip, isn't he? You know, won in China. He's been very competitive here, so he won't be too worried about coming back to China next year. And again, it almost doesn't matter in your head whether it's a different track or not. You've just got a good buzz about being in China. He'll have enjoyed his race weekend. I mean, Tom loves going to different countries anyway, but, you know, it's not just the travelogue. It's all about the enjoyment of the races as well. But he'll be very positive, I'm sure, about China as a whole. Rob Huff, maybe a little less so. Yesterday, when he went to bed, I'm sure he was very positive. Today, not maybe quite so much. Coming up behind Philip Marr, and this might be Huff's last chance to get by Tarquini.
It just shows the pace of here, because you've now got Poulsen and Engster pulled up behind, and they've extended the queue.
Well, Poulsen second, Engster third in the Yokohama Independence points race, and this is going to be good for Engster. He's going to claw back some points over Oriola and Norbert Michaelis, particularly, who's in front of him in the standings. And Michaelis not scoring here. That's going to be a big dent in his championship. Darrell Young not scoring either, so that will, I'm sure, rule him out immediately. But they're up behind Philip Marr, rather, and he can't get out of the way. Charlie New, incidentally, the Hong Kong Chinese driver in his BMW, 10th place. Philip Marr just about gets out of the way to allow Rob Huff a good run onto the straight, but it didn't hold up Tarquini enough for Huff's liking. And again, Coronel's into the back of Huff. It's that same thing with the BMW, carrying much more speed through the early elements of the corner, being able to brake later.
Well, it's as you're just getting into the apex, you're wanting that bite off the front tyres, which Huffy will have lost by now with his front-wheel drive and is starting with green tyres.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, if they do finish in this order,
that's not a given, is it?
Yeah.
That's not a given either, I think. Right, lap 24 of 25. When we go to Macau, there will be 50 points on off a massive drifting slide there from Colin Turkington, but he kept the door shut, kept the nose where he wanted it, didn't it? And that's the rear-wheel drive secret, but it does show how much he's asked of his tyres, how much they've all asked of their tyres here. Maybe he got a little bit of dirt on them, Because Coronel's looking, he is the drift king. Him and twin brother Tim do a lot of drifting, Tom Coronel. But he's got a run again on Huffy, trying to make an outside overlap. That's not going to work in this tight first corner.
Can't afford to lose.
Oh, and Coronel has to really take avoiding action. Huff swerved to his left there off the corner to try and get some traction.
Yeah.
Turks is through. So Turkington up to 4th, Coronel down to 5th. Last lap of the race, Muller leads by nearly 12 seconds in a race that has really played into the Frenchman's hands. And Turkington in 4th position. He's not going to make a second podium, but it will be a second independence win if he can make it to the line in front of Coronel. Coronel is not an independent driver, but Turkington is. Behind him, Poulsen and Engsler, 2nd and 3rd. Again, it's going to help Poulsen with the championship. So the championship leaders here, both doing well. Muller's coming to the checkered flag. He's lapped Alexei Dudicalo as well as he takes victory. And Dudicalo did make it back out of the pits. 2nd place for Gabriele Tarquini. There he is. 3rd for Huff, 4th for Turkington, and 5th place for Alan Menu. Well, it's a double race winning weekend for Chevrolet, but neither win went to Rob Huff. And to some degree, courtesy of Gabriele Tarquini, Ivan Muller must thank his lucky stars and his Italian friend. I wouldn't suggest for a moment that Tarquini held off Huff deliberately but let Muller through deliberately, because that's not the way I think Gabriele operates. But Muller just had a better sniff at getting by Tarquini and made the most of it. Now, once he was in front, then there was nothing Huffy could do to stop him running away, because Tarquini, having been passed once, was darn sure he was not going to be passed again. Well, they're going to regard that as a moral win, Gabriele and Giancarlo, aren't they?
I think we might see a little bit more fighting on the podium than we did on the track here. With it's not going to be a good atmosphere.
Well, you know, Huff's going to take it. He's got to take it in his stride. There's no point getting upset now. What's done is done. All he can do now is go to Macau and try and outrace Ivan.
And Huffy is, I mean, he's been on fire at Macau the last 2 years, so...
Yeah, it's not a bad place for him.
A long way from being over.
You know, they all like going there. It's a great trip, great atmosphere. It's a really, really demanding circuit. It's 2 circuits basically joined together. A really fast, scary one with the concrete walls a millimetre away at speeds, you know, getting up to 190, 200 odd kilometres an hour. And it's a tight and twisty roller coaster through the hillside.
And with the reverse grid, you know, the random reverse grids.
Yeah. Or qualifying then, goodness me, playing the gamble for 10th place here didn't really help Rob Huff in the end, but it did get him onto pole for race 2. They will be playing the gamble for 10th place in qualifying in a really big way.
It's a shame we didn't actually see what happened with Rob and Gabriele. So
didn't quite see the beginning of that, did we? Gabriele, 2nd place. There's one thing you can't say about Gabriele is that he rolls over easy. He is a fighter. Ivan Muller, do not look tired. Don't you dare. Look, I think that's just relief and exasperation. That's one of his best mates in the paddock, cameraman Thomas there, clonking him on the helmet, luckily not on the head. But for Gabriele, his engineer Giancarlo Bruni there, that is as good as a win for them. Really tough race.
Old Delboy getting a hug. Everyone, all the
boys, yeah.
I'm sure the atmosphere in Ivan's side of the garage is definitely going to be a little bit better than it was at 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, and certainly better than at 5 o'clock last night. And
Justine's actually broken a smile as well.
Look at the relief, though, from Justine. You know, for all of them, it's tough weekend for Huffy. And that damage on the splitter with Gabriele, you know, he's not going to hold a grudge, because I don't think that he does, and it wouldn't help even if he, you know, wanted to.
That's not Rob, is it? Yeah,
no, it's not Rob. And do you know what? I don't think I've seen him more relaxed than he's been this year about everything all year long. you know, he's just going to say, okay, what comes, comes, and I'll make the best of what I can do and do what I can do. But you can't affect everything. You can't control everything. And I think maybe that's what he's realised, to just make the most of it. Well, Ivan Muller, what a day today has turned into for him. He's doubled his points advantage. He's gone from, well, 10 in front at this race to 20 in front. He's gone from 13 in front to 20 in front over the course of the race weekend. And after qualifying, if you'd suggested that to him, don't worry, you'll be well in front, he would have, well, he wouldn't even have spared the breath to laugh in your face. Let's hear what he thinks now, though. Here's Louise.
Ivan Muller, that is just what you needed.
It's just what I need, but especially what I like. Because, you know, after the bad qualifying we had, I said to my engineer, okay, now just have fun, enjoy the work and do the job as best we can. And I think is what we did.
Thank you.
Well, did a really good job. No mechanical problems like affected him in Porto. He had a problem with the differential in both races there that made him a little vulnerable. And Porto may well turn out to have been the turning point of the championship. Muller, Tarquini, Huff, your podium finishers. Colin Turkington wins the Yokohama Independent Trophy race again. He was fourth ahead of Paulson and Engsler, the big point scorers in that category. Fourth in the Independence points, Charlie New ahead of Mehdi Benani and Freddie Bart. Pepe Oriola, Michel Nukia. But Daryl Young is now out of the hunt, and Norbert Mikulis has taken a big body blow as well, failing to score after getting tangled up around Alamenu, among others, in the opening lap. Colin Turkington didn't quite make it onto the overall podium, but makes it onto the podium nonetheless as the independent race winner. And Ivan, a lot of relief, perhaps more than anything else. Matt Neal, do you reckon?
It's going to be a lot shorter flight home for him than poor old Huffy on this occasion. But yeah, if you'd have told me that would have been the result, he'd have turned it round. I know I said yesterday he's a street fighter and he'll roll his sleeves up and get stuck in. But I'd have put a heap of money on that not being the case at the end of today. But it's what it is, and you just need that element of luck. It went yesterday for Rob. It's gone this day for Ivan, but unfortunately, yesterday isn't when the points are dished out. It's today.
No points for qualifying. So they came here 13 points apart. They are now 20 points apart, and it is now a two-horse race. Alamenu is out of the frame. He cannot now win the World Championship. So that's two.
Yes, yeah.
Well, maybe not a classic, but as you said after race one, it's been an edge of the seat weekend, and for a lot of people in Cambridgeshire, not a very good edge of the seat to be sitting on either. For a few people in France, a very good edge of the seat. It was really Ivan Muller's race. That was the big incident with Rob Huff. Now, he was lucky to take a glancing blow on the barriers there after contact with Gabriele Tarquini, because the car basically stayed in one piece and steered relatively straight. But once Ivan Muller had got by Tarquini, the writing was really on the wall. Tarquini was never going to give a place to Rob Huff. Great moves by Colin Turkington to get back in front of Alamenu at the end and past Tom Coronel as well. Muller cleared off. The margin of victory in the end, only 10 seconds. At one stage, he was over 12 in front, because basically he was in one race and everybody else behind Tarquini was in the other one.
Don't headbutt us.
Yeah, the only contact with Muller was with a cameraman in Parc Fermé, so he's happy with that. And again, you know, there's no bitter feelings between Muller and Huff. You know, they're professionals. They've been in this team a long, long time. Ever since Chevrolet entered this championship, they've had, well, not Muller, but Huff and Menu in the team. And Ivan came in, of course, a couple of years ago after Nick Larini hung up his helmet for the final time. And whatever else happens, Eric Nev now knows there will be a Chevrolet driver as champion this year. The question is, when we go to Macau, couple of weeks' time, which Chevrolet driver will it be? We'll know before the end of the month. Rob Huff third, not looking quite as delighted as second place man Gabriele Tarquini or race winner Ivan Muller. Stark contrast to this time yesterday, when you wouldn't want to stop Muller for a chat. Now I'm sure he'd be more than pleased to tell you about his race day. Eric Nev, the head of Chevrolet Racing, is on the podium, and our independent trophy winner is Colin Turkington. Fabio Fabiani again wins the J10 trophy. That's for cars that comply to the FIA Blue Book Appendix J for 2010 regulations, i.e. essentially older Super 2000 non-turbo engine cars.
谢谢我们的冠军选手，我们来放是厂商杯的国歌。好的，那现在呢，我们很荣幸的邀请到国家体育总局汽车摩托车运动管理
So
中
we
心
had the Marseillaise for our race winner Ivan Muller, the French national
主
anthem, and the Star Spangled Banner for our race winning constructor Chevrolet.
罗伯特胡夫的
So, quick bit of position swapping when Huffy noticed that the flags for second and third place men were in the wrong place. If you wondered what that shuffle was between him and Gabriele. Rob not Italian, plainly, and Gabriele not British. Third and second place trophies presented, and then the winner's trophy goes to Ivan Muller. And if you'd said winner's trophy and Ivan Muller to him yesterday, I don't think he'd have been entirely sure that you weren't having a bit of a go.
Well, excuse me. Well, he's the type of character that just never gives up. He's never gives in, never lets his feelings out too much. He does keep he's a bit of a closed book in that respect, is Muller. But he does have a real habit of coming up with the goods every time, doesn't he?
Does indeed. There's the West Surrey boys. Be heading back to the UK with a lot of extra baggage, and on behalf of our tyre partner Yokohama, the trophy's being presented to Colin Turkington in the yellow suit and Fabio Fabiani in the white suit. So they join the rest of the top three on the podium, handing out some Yokohama hats as well to make sure that everybody looks right in the photo. And Eric Nev, the head of Chevrolet Racing, looking fairly happy with that. Chevrolet Racing Europe. And yeah, time to make a getaway quickly. They may not have the longest racing tradition in China, but I think grid girls pretty much understand that once the champagne bottles come out, it is time to clear off. Gabriele's, Gabriele's engineers getting a share of that, as will Turks's at Vika Sport. And just to underline it, it is a Vika Sport entry, but Dick Bennett's and some of the boys from West Surrey who of course are based in Middlesex, are coming over.
But it's nice just to see, I mean, Tarquini's actually salvaged something for the Seat team of what's been a pretty rotten weekend for him, hasn't he?
And again, it's Tarquini and another superhuman effort that's done it.